Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 3, text number 6. Karma Yoga. Nahi kaschit kshanamabhi jadu tishtadi akarmakrit. Karyadehi avashaha karma sarva prakriti jangunai. The translation is, no one can remain silent, not even for a second. Nahi kaschit kshanamabhi jadu tishtadi akarmakrit. Without working, no one can remain silent. Karyadehi avashaha karma, that according to the modes of material nature, everyone is forced to act. Karyadehi avashaha karma sarva prakriti jayargunai. So according to the modes, one is helplessly or forced to act. So now we need to know there are two Shaktis in this material world. One is Jiva Shakti, the other one is Jada Shakti. Jada Shakti is the matter, like stone, bricks, sand, and all kinds of things. Or water, earth, water, fire, air, ether. All these things are Jada Shakti. Even mind, intelligence, and false ego, those are also Jada Shakti. But when Jiva, the living being, he enters into all these elements, or the Jiva is covered by these elements, then the elements become empty. And the living entity, when it is so much absorbed in these material elements, right? He becomes one with the material element, or he thinks that I am one with the material element. Therefore, I identify myself as the Jada Shakti or matter, this body. I am a conscious being, but I am now identifying myself with this body, with this Jada Shakti. This body is always dead. It is we makes this body active. As Krishna mentioned in the previous verse, one cannot obtain the freedom of life if we are not sufficiently purified from this contamination that we are this material body. And therefore, everything that is related to this material body is mine. This aham, mamedi, I and mine is the biggest obstacles for the spiritual progress. The reason that we identify with this Jada Shakti is called false ego. False ego means what? Identifying the self as the matter, matter as the self. False ego means, in Sanskrit term is ahangar. So when this ahangar comes, everything we mistake. So we understand things not as they are. So to become scientific, become unscientific. Scientific means understanding, learning, knowing things as they are. When we speak about unscientific, which means we become entangled in the network of illusion because of false ego. So here Krishna says, Nahi kaschit kshanamavi, even a renounced person, a sannyasi, or a brahmachari, a grihastha, a vanaprastha, all these members who follows the asrama life, not the social life. Social life is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Asrama life is Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. All these members are supposed to be renounced of the material activities. But they are not renounced the spiritual activities. The spiritual activities are Krishna-centered. Without Krishna, our activities to the society become philanthropy, social service. More often we mistake that we want to save them from giving this and that, and all these are called philanthropy. But when we do the same thing, feel compassion for all living entities and go and save them in Krishna consciousness, that is called spiritual life. So both the services may be the same for a layman, but the results are two different things. For materialistic person who does the philanthropy based on his bodily concept of life, ahangara concept of life, they obtain the results called punya karma. Of course, punya karma is much better than becoming an atheist, antagonist, a sinful, vikarmic personality. But they can still advance, recognize oneself as a servant of God. Jivere Swarupa Krishnere Nityadas. Our constitutional position is that we are servant of God. Krishnere Tadastha Shakti. We are the marginal energy, Tadastha Shakti of Krishna. Beda Abeda Pragasha. So we are actually the part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Lord Sri Krishna. So that Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva means simultaneously one and different is our Pragasha, which means that we are one with God but different from God. One with God in sense we are qualitatively one with God. Quantitatively we are different from God because we do not have that kind of power. Mayavadi is actually more often tells we are all God. Therefore we take worship from the disciples. Most of the time the gurus engages in material activities, developing the same thing, philanthropy, and he thinks himself God. So God does not do service to the human society in a social manner. God actually does attract all living entities to his pastimes by his Leela. Leela means pastimes. Leela yadena bhuvanani jayanti jashram. So by manifesting my Leelas, I attract all living entities to go back to the spiritual world. Not by doing all these philanthropic activities and keep all the jivas in this material world over and over again. Krishna doesn't do that. So therefore, it becomes essential for all spiritual leaders to propagate the mission of God. But they need to know who God is before they entering into the mission of God. So everything is impersonal for them. There is no form, qualities, rupa, nothing is there. They have many temples and churches and a mosque, but inside there is nothing. Just walls, some paintings, color paintings, not even form paintings. It's just yellow color, green color, blue color. And if you go to church, you can see Jesus is hanging on a cross. If you go to mosque, there is nothing, walls all around. How one can actually focus on God? But when you go to Krishna temples, you can actually see Krishna, but these people who do not know the meaning of idol, statue, and deities, they think Krishna and Radha Rani is simply an idol or statue. This is what they understood. This is what they understand two words, idol or statue. They can't understand D-E-I-T-Y, deity. They just ignore the Radha Krishna worship. They think, our scripture says idol worship is not actually allowed. We are not worshipping idols. We are worshipping the deities. The deities are offered every day. 6 different offerings, 7 different artis, giving them bath, changing their dress 2 times, which ordinary human beings may not do it. So these are the things that one needs to know, that's all. So no one can actually sit idle. Either you do philanthropical service or you do Krishna consciousness service. Even the saintly people are active but in Krishna service. They also cannot remain silent, because a sannyasi is supposed to be very silent, right? That is the understanding of the people. So he just sits in one place and meditate on. No. Nahika shikshanam videk, even sannyasis cannot actually sit idle. They have to work, but they work for God. But others, they work for themselves or extended family, society, like that. So, however, in order to work for God, we need to have love for God. If we don't have love for God, we cannot work for God. For example, we have our family members. If you do not love them, you may not like to serve them. So the service attitude comes when we develop love for the Supreme Lord. That is called bhakti. So in the material world, we love all these human beings, especially the family members, wife, children, husband, extended families, relatives, society members. All these loves are simply mirage. Mirage. In the desert, sometimes you see the reflections of water. In the desert, where the water available? How can we find water in the desert? Because of the sun's manifestation, there are reflections of water. Therefore, the animals actually runs behind it. And as they run, the water also go far and far away. Eventually, the animals die. So we expect love in our family. So therefore, we try to extend our love with all of our members. Most of the time, we are baffled. When one is a child, he gets a lot of love from his parents. And the parents really love them. But when they grow up, the love is gone. And the one who got the love also will not care for the love the parents were given. So the illusion of getting love from all these relatives is simply a mirage. Therefore, the love in the material world is not actually permanent. One has to understand one does activities from the birth to death. What are those activities? Either sleeping, mating, defending, or eating. For these 4 things, we work very hard. So when we work hard for these 4 things, everything is a momentary activities. When one is tired, he thinks that he wants to sleep forever, for a long time. But that is not possible. After a few hours, he has to get up. He gets up. When one is hungry, he thinks, I want to eat so much. But what this 5-inch belly can hold, half kg of food, they can't eat all. Similarly, mating and defending. Always one cannot have the mating program or the defense program. So, between the birth and death, we commit all momentary, temporary activities. It gives momentary happiness, temporary happiness. So this is what we go behind. And we can see, analyze that. Every activity is little. Right? You cannot sit and write forever. You cannot sit and chant also. Right? You have to do devotional service. Therefore, our acharyas have given, keep changing your activities. If you are tired, take a little bit nap. Otherwise, engage in writing, reading, cooking, cleaning, deity worship, arti. We also change activities. So materialistic people also, they change activities. No one can always cook in the kitchen for eating. No one can go to the office and work there 24 hours. So no one can sleep forever. No one can take bath forever. No one can clean forever. Everything is temporary. Keep changing activities. This is what we do from the birth to death. In the end, we die. And we appear in another form. Start doing the same thing. Just like if you are not in this room, you will be in some other rooms at home. It's not that because you are not in this room, you have dead and gone. Similarly, if you are dead in this body, we must be somewhere else. This is a room. So if you vacate this room and you enter into another room. Like that, living entities in every room, every body, they do all these temporary activities. So this is called, in this verse, Nahi kaschik kshanamavi. You cannot remain silent. You have to do always something. Why? Because you are under the material nature. And material nature is working under Krishna's direction. Maya adhyakshena prakriti. This material nature's superintendent is me. I have programmed this material nature work automatically. It works in its own way, but the programmer is me. Just like the street lights, right? Evening when dark appears, it turns on. When light appears, it turns off. Right? So it's automatically. So electrical engineer or electrician has programmed that particular timer. So similarly, our bodily functions, everything in the material world you can actually see, moving, non-moving, everything is programmed by the Lord. So therefore, we need to understand ourselves. We are active and we have to be active always. Why? Because the material nature controls our mind and intelligence. It is not we, the doer. Prakriti kriyamanani gunaiva karmani sarvashaha. It is done by the material nature. According to the modes of nature, the living entities does different activities. Ahangara vimudatma. Because of false ego, ahangara, I have this body, I am the owner of this body, I am the owner of this piece of land, I am the owner of this much money, I am the owner of this, that. These are called false notions, called ahangara. as long we have this ahangara vimuda atma. Vimuda means fool, number one. But actually, ahangara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. He thinks that he is the doer because he was infatuated by the false ego. Originally, Krishna is the doer of everything. Recognize that and engage everything in Krishna's service. That is the real ego. Being trapped in the material affection. Ahangara vimudatma. Material affection means mirage. There is no real affection, love at all. So you will be safe when you become fully Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious activities always increase your happiness. Material activities always brings you anxiety, lamentation, horrifying experiences, tensions, and accidents, and so many things. So you have to do activities, but do activities that is Krishna conscious activities. Otherwise, it gives all ulta results. So even the material affections, material love. We have voluntarily came to this material world only to suffer, not to enjoy. Not at all. Therefore, we are making endeavor to become happy, enjoy. But that is more often not happening. That is also momentary. Going to Disney World or this world or that world and all those things. But it's temporary to just blow your money. But it is not. That experience doesn't stay always. Maya will make you forget everything. So in the material world, anything that you do is going to be a momentarily happiness or distress. Ultimately, everything is a distress.